Hi. Let me share this again. We're going to try this. This is test number 2. Bin. Okay, I see y'all. You're back. Hi, Christy. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Jose. Okay, I'm going to request to join with for. Hi, Bea.
Here we go.
Jade, hi.
Hey.
What happened?
I don't know what happened because I couldn't see myself and I couldn't see you either.
Okay, yeah, it was kind of frozen for me too, but
Mhm.
it's
I see
good.
Jade on. I see
I
Romel
know.
on.
Do you see Ramel?
Yeah,
Who is
I
that?
just saw
Natalie?
him.
Oh, can I wave to you guys?
Think so.
Wave.
The knee boy jumping
Ni
on.
boy Lionel.
My boy Lionel.
This is gonna be so great. I'm
That's
actually
something.
really excited. I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward. Oh yeah, by the way, yeah. I know it's like it's probably like a shock. Me boy, Sheila.
Sheila.
Wait, what did you say? Love the hair. You're almost matching Chris. Yeah, I told him the same before. I was like, I look like you now. Oh man.
Good to see.
I'm trying to spot anybody in here that I don't recognize. Okay, I see a few of you. Where are you tuning in
Yeah.
from? Are you all in Montreal or
I think I just saw Rita. She might be in Sweden. Is that
no
what?
way.
Mm-hmm.
If you can in the chat like represent where you're from, whether it's like your country or whatever with a flag, emoji flag, that'd be
Yeah.
so cool. Oh, Gilix, he just joined. I almost didn't get
Yes,
Chris.
Mariana. Yeah, she is from Sweden, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, Key. This is gonna be really nice. I'm
Gilux.
really looking forward to this.
Let's go. Doval,
Um,
you know.
Dorval. No, Rwanda. Canada. Come on, me. What about Ghana? Andrew. Okay, cool.
Burundi, all the way. Yeah, let's go.
Um,
It's a Burundian embassy in Blainville.
Sheila, what are you doing the throw up thing for? Anyway, I'm getting confused. I'm getting confused with this. But yeah, so I guess we could just like jump straight into it. It's really good to have you guys join with us. And I know that some of you may be like hopping in now and then you may leave and come back. Some of you will like join us later. Hi. What is that first like Sweden? Sweden,
Yes,
Burundi. Or
Sweden,
is that
Burundi.
one Rwanda?
That's
No,
Rita.
that's Brazil, Lionel. Okay, very cool. That's so funny that he found that. Boy, did you see that? Anyway, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
my
So,
cousin just from the UK. Well, like, yeah, we got people from all over. That's what's up.
oh, that's what's up. That's so cool. So,
Mhm.
I'm Hannah, by the way, for some of you guys who I have not gotten a chance to meet. I know that this past week, like when we were kind of promoting that we would have this conversation, some of you started following me. Sorry, I'm getting distracted in the chat. What is that Trinidad? Trinidad.
Looks like Trinidad. Yeah, Trinidad, Canada.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway, I noticed that some of you guys were just following me, and it's really great to see that you're really looking forward to have this conversation with us.
Hmm.
So basically, I'm just gonna give you like kind of like a breakdown of tonight, just to give you an idea of what we'll be talking about. If you didn't get a chance to see a couple of Wait, I have a question, technical question. How do I hide the comments? Because it's a little distracting. Is there a way? Oh, okay, when I touch the screen, cool.
Yeah.
But it's so cool to have your engagement. It's just that what I'm talking, yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, so for the breakdown of tonight, we are not saying that we are any experts on the topic of mental health, but like Chris will share a bit on like what qualifies him and what qualifies me really just to talk about this. But clearly, even from the response of me boy, just from the response of just dear friends and family and people that I'm not really even familiar with, to see like the need and the excitement to talk about a topic that can be so taboo in a lot of cultures. And so I'm really looking forward to this. So,
Hmm.
um, Chris, would you like to kind of share just what is it that we're kind of responding to? There was the podcast. Did you want to share a bit about that? Like, how did you even discover the Battle Ready podcast in that specific episode? Just to give them a little like background on what we're responding to.
Yeah, definitely. Because we not sure like everybody got a chance to see that we're actually advertising. It's a response to this battle.
Yeah,
Um, the podcast is called Battle Ready. So they actually touched on so many topics, and one of them was mental health.
yeah,
And can't really remember how I come across it, but you probably shared it and I saw it. But I really fell in love with the approach they had on mental health because it was in concept or in the context of church, which
yeah.
yeah, with Erin McManus. Yeah, thank you, Bear.
You know him, Bea? I was gonna tell you about him. Oh
Mm-hmm,
my gosh.
mm-hmm.
Lionel, thank you so much. He's the one who introduced them to me, and then I told everybody about them. So
That's what's
yeah,
up, Lionel.
yeah,
And yes, so pretty much like I love the approach he had on mental health, and especially in the context of church, and really touched me in a way that feel like if we can take this conversation further and have more people just to have a conversation around it, I thought it was a good idea. So I was like, yeah, so you're up for it, and then
yeah,
this is what's happening now.
yeah. Same here. I mean, like the topic in itself, it's there's always something that when the topic of mental health comes up,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always really like drawn to that kind of conversation because you don't hear it like it's not a conversation that happens out in the open as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's so I personally, I mean, I have my own story and different ways that I've like responded to my mental health and things like that in my life, but I just feel like personally one of the stigmas that I would like to be a part of breaking in regards to mental health is that um I mean, first of all, I'm from Ethiopia, although I was born and raised here in Montreal. Like my cultural background and everything is Ethiopia, and I have just seen this like taboo thing tied to even the word, like the fear that sometimes comes when especially like older generation
Yeah.
would just hear mental health and associated, or not just mental health or mental illness, and
Yeah.
associated automatically with like just being insane,
Mm-hmm.
or like two extremes, either like one extreme or the other, where it's just like it's nothing. And I just feel like there's an in between. There's just that point where it's like we can just talk about it. And I truly believe, especially as a Christian, that when we bring things to light,
Mm-hmm.
there's not as much room for like shame and just anything dark to like make a person feel isolated and alone in this. So I want to be a part of breaking that stigma, not only for that cultural background, but also as a woman, there's so many things that like women experience and that are taboo in our culture that um, it's sad,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm hoping that God would give me the courage to speak up, speak out, share parts of my story that I'm still walking through, and yeah, so that's a little bit about
Yeah.
that. Um, would you want to kind of really just share like what would you feel qualifies you even to have this conversation, Chris?
Yeah, because if I can actually add a little bit on that, on the in between, because when we put up that we're gonna have this conversation, and I had like a couple of people telling me, hey, so you have mental problems, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or and that is something I would have said before I actually looked into this closer because I'm
Yeah.
from the same culture, and really the in between was really like not existent, you know. And to me now, like when I looked into it a little bit, which is not very old, kind of recent, was that there is physical health and there is mental health. It could be the healthiest part of you, or it could be it's just a state of health. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you don't have to be at cancer stage 4 to go to the doctor all the time.
Yeah.
There is flu. There is other little curable things. And so you don't have to go insane to actually take care of mental health, which was
Yeah.
pretty much the approach my culture had. So that's why what qualifies me. So I'm in the in between. Like I have ups
Mm.
and downs. So that's pretty much why I think everybody, not just you and I, anybody here could actually like have something to say about it because we're all
Yeah.
navigating through it. Yeah.
Mm. And I see a few new people who are hopping in. So hi, hi, hi. In the beginning, we got a chance to just connect a bit and see who's hopping on. I'm curious to know from those who are tuning in right now, louder for the people in the back, Chris, he said. If any of you actually got a chance to hear this podcast, let us know like in the chat. That'd be really cool just to see like how many of you have actually gotten a chance to watch it. Even if you didn't, it doesn't really matter because you're like conversation will just something will spark from what we're sharing. And also one thing that I wanted you all to keep in mind is although we kind of plan to have an hour-long conversation, it could go on a little longer. That's a possibility. Most likely will happen. And we're hoping to just save at the very end like a short little Q&A because for the most part we have an idea of like what we want to talk about today. But at the end, if there's anything that sparks your attention or anything at all, a question on a personal level, please save that, write it down as we're just chatting and ask at the end because we want to save time for like a brief little Q&A thing, maybe answer like 1 or 2, 3 questions. And we're also going to be sharing like a recording of this at the end. So if you're not able to, we hope that you can tune in for the whole thing. If you can, that's totally fine, but we're going to share it at the end as well. So yeah, let's just start into this. But before that, I'd like to just start with like a short word of prayer. So yeah, thank you, God. You are here with us, Lord. We love you and we ask that you would just speak to our hearts, Lord. Speak through us, speak through Chris and I. And yeah, just have your way tonight with our conversation. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. So yeah, I just wanted to first start off by saying some of the comments that some people responded earlier this week when I asked the question. So like, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear mental health? First of all, let's even ask it here. When you hear mental health, let's just start with that. When you hear the word mental health or mental illness, what's like the first thing that comes to mind? And as people are answering, I want to hear from you, Chris, like what genuinely comes to mind when you hear that? The top of your head. It can be an emotion, it can be like whatever.
Yeah, like as I grew up, like I'll share two parts. Like in my culture growing up, talking about mental health was pretty much first thing that would come to mind was insanity. Wow. That's how I grew up, so I can relate to that. And lately when I went into a self-discovery journey with God myself, and looking in the Word, looking at the people, just looking at how much of a stigma that was. And now when it comes to mental health, is the same way you can say about, fitness, physical health.
Yeah.
It could be bad. So that's one thing that comes to mind right now. And that's pretty much something I'm still trying to navigate. But I'm so grateful that I got rid of the stigma. And I'm so proud of talking about this and to even encourage people to talk about this. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. That's one thing. Yeah.
Like a more normalized approach to
100%.
that topic. That's really cool. I would say, like one of the first thing that comes to mind, I think it's just like what we often hear is anxiety, depression, like those two terms.
Yes.
I feel like that's like what mainly comes to mind when I think mental health, I see it also as like you were mentioning, like, I don't know, like something that we take care of, that we want to keep healthy, my mental health.
Correct.
So I see it really like I've come a long way. It's a lot more like simple now, my approach. But I think that when I first like really started engaging in that kind of conversation or hearing about it, I would think, I don't know, I would think like the thing that people don't talk about too much and is like, like just something hidden. That's what I think. Let me read a couple of what you guys are sharing. Okay, David, hi. You said isolation, solitude. Munyanas, you said mental health before, crazy. Nowadays, necessary for healthy, balanced life. Yes.
Correct.
What else? Freeman, writer, you said mental health, stigma. Yeah. So if there's anything else that comes to mind, you guys can just share. And it was really interesting to hear some of the things that you guys shared also
Yeah.
this week. So thanks so much. So
Yeah. It's pretty much like it's so relatable because I can see some of the people that come from the same culture I grew up from and how we're transitioning and all the anxiety, solitude, and all those all in betweens that we were now looking at are now coming to light. So it's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we can just like dive right into the podcast that we listened to.
Yeah.
I listened to it like 2 weeks ago, but there's still things that are fresh on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't watch it, just follow us through. You'll still be able to like engage with this.
Yeah.
But actually, it started off on a really tragic note. The podcast, it actually was a response to the one of the members of the congregation who was a young adult church congregation who took his life.
Yeah.
And their church it's in LA, right, Chris? It's in LA, in
Yeah.
Anaheim, they said.
Santa Monica, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Santa Monica.
Monica, yeah. It's in the LA, I think area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're from Mosaic Church.
Mm-hmm.
They're from Mosaic Church, and so they were just talking about like so basically the podcast. I shouldn't have eaten before I speak,
Yeah.
but they basically have a conversation between the father and the son. The father is a pastor of Mosaic Church, and the son, does he preach? Is he a pastor? I'm not
I
sure.
think it's part of the staff now.
Okay,
he has a place somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like one of the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so they have these really authentic conversation about these topics that not everybody always engages in, especially within the context of church. So the podcast starts off with just them addressing the fact, okay, Jose said that he's a pastor too, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So they start off by saying that one of the members of their church took his life.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I mean, I'll start off by sharing for me, and I want to hear from you too, Chris. Like, what was like your initial reaction when you heard, and for you guys too, when you hear that there's a possibility that a member from a church, and even if you don't go to the church, there's a person close to you in your community who takes his life.
Mm-hmm.
Can we actually? I want to hear your response. Like, what was your initial response or reaction when you hear that?
It's definitely the first reaction is always like, yo, how tragic is that? Like, how tragic is the fact that sometimes like we can have so much pain that we just don't find like a reason to keep going, you know? It's and I actually heard some people saying like when people take their lives away, it's not that they don't see the beauty of life, it's just that they can't just bear the pain they have at the moment anymore. So they're ready to sacrifice the gift of life because they just want to stop suffering. And the second thing that came in mind is that this was a person in church, just like me or you, and surrounded by a lot of people. It's not really a person that on the outside, like actually Erin touches about, it's like everybody would say he's like a lovable person, enjoyable person. You know, person like you and I probably would say like, oh, these people have, like people like him, like they're full of life and everything. So nobody could ever suspect he was going through such pain. And the problem, what scares me the most is that how can we be so surrounded, and yet feel so alone. So that was my, and nobody knew because like nobody had an idea. It's like, yeah, so my reaction was like, okay, God, who around me probably needs that, you know? So it's that was my reaction. It's like, yeah, he's there, a lot of people around him, just like so many of us, and yet going through such, like where do we fail?
Yeah, I feel, and I feel like you touched on something before I share my thought. Like when you said that it could be like anybody in our community and we may not even know it. Do you really feel like there is absolutely no way of picking up on something like that, or are there like noticeable types of things that we can pick up? Because for me, initially when I hear this, it's like, could somebody not have done something? Like that's my you know, my initial response. But then again, it's like sometimes no, sometimes you can pick up on it. But I just feel like we failed this guy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we failed him. How did that happen? How
Mm-hmm.
did a person from our congregation in a
Mm-hmm.
community, and I'm sure, like, hearing even from the pastors speaking, like, they care for their people. They care
Mm-hmm.
for their people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying that my response is right. I'm saying this is my honest, authentic response. It's like, could we
Mm-hmm.
have done something differently? Could they have done something differently to, like, pick up on something like that? Or is it still connected for
Mm-hmm.
you, Chris?
Yeah,
Did it
we're back
disconnect for
now.
a
Yeah,
bit?
for like a split of a
Okay.
second. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, do you feel like um, when is a time that maybe you feel like you have been able to pick up on, like, what are things that you feel like tell you, oh, okay, maybe this person is going through something? Or do you feel like there's a possibility actually to pick up on the things that, when he even had explained, he said in Anaheim, or in LA, where he said in
Mm-hmm.
Santa Monica, people tend to look good on the outside, but they're broken on the inside. Like, everything is
Mm-hmm.
so polished and
Yeah.
great on the outside, but people can be broken on the inside and nobody really knows. And I was thinking, like, like, the question that I even asked was like, do you feel like you can actually pick up on the brokenness of people inside when they're portraying that they're good on the outside? And if so, how?
Yeah, I actually, like, I would also like pick up on what Bea has said. Like, yes,
Um,
people, you won't know if somebody doesn't want to show you, you won't know. But now this is the question that I had in mind was, so why do we feel compelled? Like, I'll
yeah,
include
that's a good
myself.
question.
Why do we feel compelled to portray that everything is good?
Mm,
You know,
that's a
because
good question.
definitely we can all hide it, but why do we feel compelled to hide it? And the same way he said, yeah, people in LA, they're coming from all over the world, beautiful people. And he touches and says, like, people come to LA and they're like, I've never seen so many beautiful people in one place, because everybody's trying to come and get in the entertainment television industry. He says, like, they're not just beautiful people, they're beautiful and they're smart, you know, but they're broken. They're dealing with so much depression, with so much sense of failure. Like, just imagine how many people are trying to be actors and go to auditions, and every time, like, you're not picked up. Like, you got thousands of people, but you got just a handful of superstars, or people who make it, or people who it's a constant place where people are trying, giving their best shots and not fail. So feelings of failure, of rejection, of isolation, people who leave their family and come. And the same way, I think I wouldn't detach it from our lives. Instagram,
Mm.
Facebook, everything is filtered. Everything's pretty much is filtered and can be polished, apart from reality. The only thing that actually is efficient, the reality cannot be filtered.
I'll
So,
be honest for a second.
mhm,
I'll be honest for a second. I've
mhm,
struggled with that a lot. And
mhm,
actually, um, so I've had so many different Instagram pages on and off, public platforms,
mhm,
and also personal, private things.
mhm,
And I wouldn't consider myself somebody who, like, desires to portray some sort of perfect image. I actually
mhm,
want people to see that I'm super human, and, like, I try my best not to be a judgmental person. Cut off.
mhm.
Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
Hmm.
Mhm,
Like, I really want to make sure that I'm somebody who's not portraying to seem like a perfect person, but I don't realize sometimes, but in the way that I select what I choose to share sometimes in my own, like, sometimes it's even coming from a place of, I just love art and I love when things look put together and whatever. So from my previous personal Instagram page, I would share highlight reels, like, highlight reels. And I know that often we say, like, that's a bad thing, like, that's the fact that on social media you share highlight reels and it's just not reality. But I don't know, like, I was having a conversation not too long ago with one of the people who's tuned in here, just saying, like, well, it kind of makes sense that when it's on, like, an online platform, like, let's say if you're in your home and you frame something, would you frame, like, I don't know, the time where you like lost this thing or failed that, like you do want to share that, and it's not entirely bad. But the thing is, when I started noticing in myself that like it was like when you scroll through your page and all you personally even see, like, you know, it
Mm,
makes it seem like, oh, this has been my entire life. Like
mhm,
personally, it's as a visual, it doesn't do good to me, because all I see is just the surface level of things in my life, when in
mhm,
reality it's not all just that, and I know that, but
mhm,
it's so much more. So I
mhm,
feel like I try to be really careful now with how I use my social media platform. But I have really like, I've come a long way, but I actually try to like refrain myself from like um, posting things from events when I go. And not to say it's bad, but for my own sake, to challenge that thing of like wanting to the moment that I go somewhere to then share some of the like beautiful images from that moment online. Um, yeah, that's been something that I have done.
yeah, first of all, like kudos to be like kind of like aware on that of what it can actually do to you as a person. And what I would just add is that it's actually a problem that can come from both ends. Like whoever is perceiving you
True.
as well can be like, oh, I don't think I'm that fine. I don't think I'm, wow, look at this person is doing something with their life. You know, it's what am I? So it kind of creates a problem, like from us posting whatever we do or filtering, everything looks good. So we can tend to want to be that filtered us, which really doesn't exist, you know? And what can happen is that people can actually tend to connect with that person that we actually created ourselves. And in the same way, it could create, there's a quote I love, is that social media has created anxiety and envy on lifestyles that don't even exist. You know,
Same.
so you can have a problem based on something that does not exist,
Oh
and
my
that's really
God.
scary, you know, because yes, you can try to live like the persona you created and you love it, but you're not it, and the person can be like, oh, I want to connect with Hannah, but it's Hannah, the Instagram Hannah, or those of Hannah, Hannah, and then that person will never connect with the real you. So you can be popular, but not rich. Like they will never connect with the real you because you want to live the real you, and they don't even know the real you. So it's something we create, and definitely in the context of church as well. Uh, I noticed that if you're not highly and beautiful, like if you're not blessed and highly favored 24/7, you can feel shame. It's a danger in church as well. So we can actually walk around in church filtered, and that's when you have somebody's like, oh, I don't understand. This guy was leading worship Sunday, and now he took his life.
Well, don't you feel like, okay, this one thing that I personally struggle with, and I feel like some of us would relate, is
Mm-hmm.
I often want, like, I feel like the leader in me wants or feels the need to be well in
Mm-hmm.
some way
Mm-hmm.
to encourage somebody, like
Mm-hmm.
to give something to somebody. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and when I'm facing deep lows, I'm in pain for whatever reason, and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
God still is replenishing me in those moments, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm often in a position of needing help more than you know, I don't always necessarily feel empowered and highly favored and like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, but I have seen though the way that God has worked in moments of like vulnerability and
Mm-hmm.
weakness, and
Yes.
how he has positioned me in ways of like being able to even relate to a person,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that actually goes back to, would you be able to pick up on somebody's brokenness or whatever? It's actually the times when I've felt the most low or the most lost or the most confused, the most misunderstood, the most like, oh my God, I think I'm going crazy,
Mm-hmm.
where I've reached out to somebody and sympathized with them, where
Mm-hmm.
where God put somebody on my heart, or I just really felt like, I don't know, when you're in a moment where you feel a certain pain, certain people come back to mind, the people who maybe mention something to you, and then you pick up on that. And what I've done is like, I've reached out to them, and in my pain, I'm telling you, a lot of times when I've done that, there was just this powerful moment of connection. This person was like, how did you know? Or I feel so understood. This is so powerful. So actually, I've found such strength in those moments where I have felt weak when I reach out. And the way that in my own struggles in different ways, the way that I feel like that has given me actually this a greater sensitivity to pick up on things that maybe a person thinks they can hide super well, but I'm like, I know your sneaky things. I know what you do. I know, because I've done it too.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in it, but I have compassion for that. And sometimes it's not visible from the outside. It's like, you can dress well. You know what I do actually sometimes? And I've told a friend on this. What I do sometimes is it's actually this thing of like faith where I feel, maybe there's been points where I've felt really, really dark, but I wore white as like a thing of like, God, like, I am not this. I don't want to, like, you know, and so I'm not trying to make people think that I'm, you know, feeling happy and bright, but it's my personal way of just speaking faith. Like, Hannah, you are not going to be dark today. You are a child of God, and you're going to keep doing what you're doing. But I've worn white, and yeah, I've done things like that. So I know that there are people, it doesn't matter what you wear, how sometimes when we feel the lowest, that we'll do all that we can to look great, you know. So it's not about that. I think there's power in asking questions, in asking sincerely, don't you think? Like when we say, like, how you ask, how are you, how are you, but how are you really making time to hear from a person? Like, when have you felt the most like, when have you felt like somebody, in reaching out to you, like they saw you, they really heard you in your whatever struggle that you may have been facing, where you were hiding, but where did you feel the most like seen, or when did you feel the most seen in that way?
First, okay, I know you gotta. Okay, good, you're back now. Yeah. So like it's I think Aaron touches on that, like when we feel like, he touches on the story of Elijah. So the fact that some of your darkest moments, like you said, you tend to forget who you are. And pretty much, like, if we get into a dark place, it's not because we have lost the God-given gifts in us, or even when you're compassionate, like, if your gift is compassion, if your gift is generosity, if your gift is being with people, when you get to your lowest moment, that's when you run away from everybody. Like, you go to a place where you cannot actually exercise that. So something comes and blinds a reality, which is what you have in you. So what you just mentioned pretty much was a fight not to stay in there. Like a fight to be like, yeah,
Oh
God,
yeah, it's a fight. It's
that's
a
a
fight.
fight. It's a fight. But the first initial response, like, I totally guilty of that, is when I'm in a total pain, I can restrain. Like, I just go in my corner, or I can be in a crowd, but really not being there. So in both ways, in a way, I'm not there, and I kind of pull away. And I'm not going to engage like you do. Like, it's not going to be easy for me to engage in an authentic way, but definitely that is a sort of, it's like handcuffs on whatever I have in me, because that pain is coming and taking everything in the space of everything. And Aaron touches about that when he talks about Elijah. Like, he just had the greatest moment. Thousands or hundreds of prophets just died. Like, he just saw a miracle that most of us never really seen. And the next day, he's running away for his life. So that moment of fear, anxiety, and shame, or fear, pretty much, that was fear in his case, blinded him and made him forget what happened the previous day. And Erin talks about it's like, he just saw the biggest miracle, that should last you a week of faith at least. But that's not how it works. And that's pretty much what happens, is that everything else just like gets blindfolded. Like you don't see.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
see from the right
you
perspective.
don't know. It's not that you don't have more life in you. It's just that you pretty much deactivated that because of the pain.
Yeah.
Because of the pain, yeah. So
Oh man.
great fights you do like when you do that. So it's pretty much where everything lies. Like come back to the perspective of the reality, which is not always like tragic. Circumstances can be, but not the reality.
It really like it hit me hard when I heard the beginning. For some of you who've just joined now, we're commenting on a podcast called Battle Ready, and the specific episode was mental health. In the beginning, they started off by saying that one of the members from the congregation took his life, and they were responding to that briefly and had a conversation. And we're gonna move on from this question, but I still have a hard time grasping like
Mm-hmm.
there's somebody right now in our congregation who could be struggling, and honestly most likely is struggling with either taking their lives
Mm-hmm.
or and to think that that is happening now, I personally want to know, what am I doing that is contributing to um, um, helping the person not fully consider those kind of thoughts as like the only way, as the only option. What am I doing? This is a question that I'm asking myself, and I'm hoping that we're all asking each other. Like, yeah.
You're first of all talking about it right now, and that's pretty much like one would say, like, why would you guys go on live and talk about this? Why don't you just share the podcast, you know? Or why would somebody just, no, we're talking about it because, not because of anything, but because me, you, like the people we know, we could be some of those people. It's not foreign to us, right? And first is to talk about it and to make vulnerability okay, you know? Like the men here, especially African men, or you will know what I'm talking about, you know? Like vulnerability to make it okay. Because, like I said first, why do we feel compelled to show the best of us? Or the best, you know, the fake it till you make it kind of philosophy? It's because that's what's accepted. So it's going to take the same people, us, to make vulnerability accepted. And to make it okay, and actually to make it great. It's greater because, if we can put it simply, the other thing just doesn't work. Like people are suffering like right now. Nobody can tell me everything is okay. Like that's a blunt lie. Like we're all struggling with something. That's a reality. To make it okay, to not be okay, will change things. So I will definitely say that you're doing great by talking about it today.
I would say I'm a huge advocate of community. But not just like the idea of community. There is a difference between being a churchgoer or even an attender in a community, but like actually building relationship with people. What that means to me is that people are involved. There's accountability in my life. People are involved in the areas that like maybe from an outside, you know, I'm not living the Instagram life. Like I'm not living in a way that like just you just see some highlight reels, you know some of the motives that maybe are not always the healthiest, not always the best. You know my weaknesses, you know, and not just because we had this one-on-one check-in of, no, because we've done life together. And to be honest, this is one of the many reasons why I'm an advocate of church. The church, the body of church, and both of us are a part of a community called Resurgent Church. Oh man, I love us. I really do. Like there, most of the healing and the restoration that I've found in any of like anything regarding my mental health and anything like that has been in the context of community. It's been in like organic, like conversations, real conversations that we get to have in the space created for that. It's not just sitting and listening to a sermon. It's being able to even talk about what we hear, and really, yeah. And for anybody who's hearing this right now and you feel like, is that even possible? Are there people out there who like, what? Yeah, if it's a desire in you, trust me, like it is possible. There are people who would love to know you, to truly be known and seen. It's a possibility. It is how God created us. It's how He wired us. So
Absolutely. And
right.
absolutely, because Aaron, the dad, so confusing, Aaron and Aaron, but the dad,
Yeah.
he touches it. He says, uh, don't be like, oh, it's just me and Jesus. It's like people would break you. Like it's a reality. And us as people, we will break some other people. And he's like, but God will also use people to heal you. And you can't do this just me and Jesus. Because Jesus does church. Like I don't want to do church, but I'm just doing no Jesus. If you want to do Jesus, not do church, I don't know how you're gonna do that because Jesus does church as well. So we're not really meant to be alone. And it's not that we're not meant saying like we're meant to be in a crowd, but we're meant to really feel like you are part of somebody, like you're somebody's guardian, you know? Like when they say two are better than one, it's a passage in the Bible. Like because when one falls, the other one will relieve it in their labor. So you're on mission together. You win, I win. Because if you lose, I'm losing. So till we get that mentality that actually no, like I don't need to outshine you, I need you to shine. That's gonna make me shine as well, and create a community like that. That's the whole lie, pretty much, that the truth, shining a light on that whole lie. Because most of the time we thought, okay, people are bad and everybody's out there to
Oh
get
yeah.
you, you know, everybody's out there to get you, and just be careful.
Yeah, be careful.
Control and everything. You can be as careful as you want. Still, you'll be broken by somebody. Like there is a person that will definitely will have that armor-free space and will hit you. Like it is a reality. But there is also a person out there who will actually come with the first aid kit and get you back up. So it is a reality. We hurt, we get hurt, but that is actually how we designed to function. We're designed to function together. He even mentions like if your dream is you're big enough for your dream, that's not the dream God has for you. Because the dream God has for you is to be with people, to accomplish it with people, and to bless other people. God told Abraham, like I will bless you, so you will be a blessing. So it's never really an individual thing. That's a human thing. It's not a God thing. And he touches it in the podcast. And as long as we get that, I'm not in community because I want to give, like I'm just gonna like give to people. No, your giving will actually be your receiving, and that's the best business transaction we can make.
I really love
You know
that.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And well, at some point he did touch on worship being a remedy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I wanted to talk about that for a moment. Like, do you feel like worship has been a form of remedy in your life or some sort of like weapon? And like how, or how do you
Absolutely.
relate to that when he says that, like worship as a remedy?
Yeah, when he says worship as a remedy, like he pretty much explains it and says worship is nothing but a shift of responsibility. Like I can't do this. I can't just carry it. Like it's too painful. Like it's too hard. Like I don't know how to navigate this. But I give you glory and give you everything. Like you've done it before. And remember, okay, God, you've done this. You're this. Like you go back and remember. Because Elijah forgot what happened the day before. So when the Bible says like never forget his good deeds, that's how you worship. Is like, you pulled me out of that mess last year, yesterday. I know you're here. I know you're here with me. And it's a shift of responsibility. Take it off your shoulders. Because anyway, you ain't gonna do anything about it. You're not powerful about it. Like, you can do something, you're like, I can't do anything about it. And the remedy is pretty much being like, yeah, change your perspective. I'm surrendering this.
Yeah.
That's how I got it. How did you get it? Like, how did you feel that line for?
Well, worship. I mean, I know often like when we hear worship, we automatically think music and like playing a worship song. But lately, for me, especially, just being intentional about and just mindful about God's creation, whether it's walking outside. And lately, the sun, oh my gosh, has been so beautiful. Today was so beautiful. But I was telling my parents, actually, we were just sitting down and talking and praying, and I said, it's not a matter of being outside. Like, when we think of like beautiful, quiet places that are so zen, that should make us feel peace on the inside. It's not so much the location. It's not so much the sound of something that brings peace. It's the mindfulness in the moment of who brings peace. When I'm walking, I can walk through this same street, mindful of God and all of his might and his sovereignty and his love and how he restores my perspective in that way. And also be looking at his creation. Like, I see kids pass, I see trees, I see the sky, I see the sun, I see all of that, and I'm reminded of him and all of it. Or I can walk through that same thing and just, I don't know, like, not thinking about all of that. Just be thinking about me. And the beautiful thing that I've been finding is, we can just be totally ourselves with God. And I love the fact that lately I've been even getting excited to like share within the times where I'm feeling the most I don't know, like scared or anxious or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to go on my walk with you and tell you about it, because I know, not because I'm feeling excited in this moment, because I know that when I do, something changes. I know. And if anything, it actually gives me a little bit more patience to endure whatever is happening, because I know that when I will come in that moment, sometimes it's just a thought, even just that mindfulness in the moment. I don't need to be outside. It's just like reconnecting with him. That's part of worship. That is part of worship, as my weapon is to remind me that who I really am in the situation, and what kind of power God has really given me within me. Sometimes it's just a matter of like me forgetting. It's not like when there's anxiety that rushes in me. I'll be honest, when I had first posted about the fact that we'll have this conversation, I went like, and I was filled with it, and I was confused, because I'm like, all of my friends know this. I've been so zen. I've been like chill. Like, I've been so good. So I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna have a conversation. Of course, I take it seriously, but that moment was like, it came out of nowhere. I'm like, what? Are you serious? This is not what I need right now. And I just felt anxious for many reasons. And I loved how Erwin actually defines anxiety in this podcast. And he says, how did he word it? He said, like, it's the fact that we assume a bad outcome from something that we don't have control over.
Yes.
It's like, it's one definition. There's so many ways to look at anxiety, but I think in that moment, it was really like a mixture of that. And immediately I was like, put my phone down. I said, I don't even want to try to figure out why is it that I'm feeling this way? Because often, as in our culture, we try to check, like, it's ask yourself why, awareness, all that. That's so good. I do that as well, journaling and all. But first, what is my first response? God, I need you. I don't care about figuring out why. I don't care. I just need you. First and foremost, I need to be reminded of your truth. I want to let you speak, because I see you were going to say something.
Yes, I was just going to say, like, it really joins what Erin was saying, the fact that you're looking at the creation, you're looking at all that. It's just to change your perspective. Like, you take your focus from something to something else that's greater, right? And it just what you choose to give weight to, you know. And to answer a question that I think Arnold here had asked was
You're
if we
so good at
could,
multitasking. How do you read the comment? I love that people are engaging, but I haven't been able to read
yeah,
anything.
no, but I saw this question and naturally you can maybe add something on it. But I was like, yeah, can we actually rely on non-Christians and non-believers to mend us and everything? I think God says he will use anybody or anything. Like we've seen people like Moses, and who got great advices from like his father-in-law, and that helped shape him. It's not that we choose where it comes from. We believe in God, and we believe that he's going to use anybody. So we
Yeah.
rely on God, but knowing that
Yes.
God can use anybody. He can use the creation to talk to you, like you say. You go outside, you're like, man, these layers are so colorful. And you're like just amazed, and you forget what actually was keeping you awake at night. It just, he can use anything and anybody, you know, just to touch on that. Uh,
Mm.
it's it's a change of perspective. It's whatever you want to give
Mm.
your attention to, and that's pretty much what we struggle with. Like um, like I have a little I had a time recently when I went through something that wasn't easy, and the one thing that came to mind was how great my community was.
Yeah.
Like instead of just looking at, oh my God, poor me, like, oh, I'm so in pain or something like that. Pretty much the same way you say you look at the creation, you see the kids and everything. I looked at my community and the people around me, and that gave me like so much strength that I couldn't have had anywhere. Like pretty much everything was draining me. I was like, why God and everything, and my family was shining in my eyes, my community and everything. So a change of perspective, like he says, a change of responsibilities, like God, you created me, you created all these people, look at what you put around me. That's worship. And he says, then when you change worship as a way of life, not a song, then that's pretty much when you get to navigate these problems, because more coming.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow. I really love how you put everything together. I feel like I go off topic and I listen to you. I'm like, wow, that was a good response. And everybody's saying that. Bea was saying that. Oh man, that's really, really good.
Let's go. Yeah.
Um, one of the things that he also touched on, I mean, I feel like we kind of spoke on this,
Mm-hmm.
is that we're not designed to do life alone.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned like the community and how you're just so grateful for that and how you recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can just share like when is a time where if there's been an instant or like something like that in our lives where we made that mistake of choosing to face something alone rather than like reach out, or and how that affected us, or
To
is
me,
that a
it's
question?
almost, almost every time I get into something, like my first, like I'm totally guilty of that. Like my first response would be like, no, let me not put this burden on the people around me.
Burden on
Yeah,
someone.
yeah, burden on someone. That's something else.
Mm,
And
mm,
even everything we hear around us is like, uh, yeah, you want to be with positive people. You want to be a positive person. Like people are attracted with positive energy. People, um, we can get into this spiral of thinking, and oh, I'm not very positive at the moment, so nobody wants to be with me because I'm in pain, and nobody really wants to hear about me. You know.
and you see when you say that it's because you assume you're the only one.
100%. And Erin touches that because in the story, in I can't really like point out the verse or the Bible verse for people to go back, but it's when Elijah runs away in the desert and is like, God, because Jezebel tells like, hey, I'm gonna kill you tomorrow. So this guy who just like blew 1,000 prophets of like Baal victorious, kind of like, like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, I don't think he had a greater victory that day, you know? So it's way, like, I just seen a miracle from God. And then he runs away, and he runs away to the desert, and he goes, yo, God, I'm all alone. Take my life. Same thing that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Take my life. I can't live anymore. Dude, you just saw the biggest miracle a few hours ago. But what God does, he teaches us actually how to handle that. The angel came and said, get up and eat. Which is not what we do when people actually feel like they're the only one in the world struggling with that. Sometimes I'm like, and I'm very guilty of that. Sometimes I'm like, no, look at things this way. No, see, you got a lot of things in you. Don't look at things that way. God was like, get up and eat.
Eat.
So,
Like, simple.
yeah. So God teaches us how to take care of a fellow person that's dealing with that. That's not time for reasoning. And I've been so guilty about that. I've been so guilty so many times in my relationships. Be like, no, see things this way. No, why you see yourself that way? And it pretty much is like, why is everything getting worse? I'm getting a better perspective, you know? And I'm like,
yeah.
You know? But it's like, yeah, get up and eat, you know? And he's like, just told God, take my life. I can't do this anymore. I'm the only one. And God is like, no, I actually have more of Jews all around. So you're not the only one. And that's the problem with like, okay, nobody can understand my struggle. Nobody can understand what I'm going through, right? And even those who can understand will react so badly to it, trying to reason and give you perspective, to give you that. Yo, that's a tired mind. You want it to do more work? No, you know? So rest, Sabbath. And, you know, and then he having that feeling of like, I'm all alone. I've had it so many times. And I've had so many times. And that's exactly how you get into it. In a world where you feel like you're not really allowed not to be on point. If you're not on point, go hide yourself till you're on point. Now come back and shine. So it's that we have to be intentional about changing, because we don't benefit from it. Your fellow doesn't benefit from it. And it's just a system that doesn't work. That's proving that it doesn't work every single day. Why are we keeping up with it?
Yeah. I was just thinking as you were speaking, like, what in my life has broken that broken what? That's not English. Broken that thought. Like, what has broken that thought? Because I feel like really there has been a shift in my life where like it's not a thought that comes as often to me anymore, where I think, oh, I'm burdening this person. I don't feel that anymore. I'm like, what changed? And I think like there was a point where I think we all need friends. We all need, but we need at least even one true friend, like a true friend, you know, like a brother or like a sister, but like a deeper. But then what does that start with? It doesn't often start with like the other person. It's like with you. How do I, like a good question to ask is, how can I be a good friend? Yeah. Start there. If you feel hopeless, when I've felt hopeless with that kind of thing, it's like, I just said, what can I do? Oh, I can learn how to just be a good friend. And my main reference point is that standard is always Jesus, really, because he's just like, he's amazing. And I'm looking at this picture. Jesus. But yeah, I'm just like, man, he was a good and a true friend. And I feel like he challenges the status quo too, on like how he's been a friend for people. And it challenged me because I started realizing I don't think I've been like that to people? And how can you expect a friend when you haven't, or how can you expect a friend that deep when you haven't maybe offered yourself in that way? So it's the points where I've really like focused on being that for somebody, for people